Really, it's just communicating with people in general, like actually understand how do they communicate? How do they connect? How do they like to be connected with? And talking to them on their level. So you can get an understanding from their perspective and then talking about it differently. So I chose the hard path, right? But I chose to do something about it. And too often people sit there and these things happen and they're like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. But then they choose to not do anything about it.
Hello and welcome to the Real Success Show. I'm your host, Candice Mama. If you are at home asking yourself, how do I adjust to this new digital age? How do I start profiting from it? How do I start using terms like funnels and automation? Well, today's episode is for you. I speak to Matthew Clark, who is a master in automation. But before I head to Matthew, please be sure that you are liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people can find us. So without further ado, here's Matthew Clark. Hi, Matthew. How are you?
Doing great in yourself.
I'm great, thank you. Thank you so much for taking your time to be on the Real Success Show.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Yeah, when Brian wanted me to come on, I was like, yep, absolutely. I can jump in and add some value there for sure. We've done so much together over the years. It's like, it's a no-brainer.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear, Matthew. Like when I was researching you and the work that you do, I really wanted to, ask you a couple of questions about it. In the age we're living in now, in terms of automation and, click funnels, it's like the stuff we're hearing so often, right? Since this time in our lives, I'll say, I'm not going to name it. But, but tell me, when did you get into this line of work?
I think it's been about 5 years ago now. We started this business and, I came from a very manual intensive, like labor intensive company. I used to have a Samsung dealership selling PABX copiers, CCTV. And I mean, we built that business up in 4 years, myself and two business partners. In 4 years, we're doing like 100 million Rand a year. And we did everything door to door. We used to drive out to all the outlying areas, take our sales team, pick out a couple of doors for them, get them to go knock doors and sign up clients. So there's literally nothing more manual that you can do than that. And the first experience with this was I started going and seeing some of these international speakers coming to South Africa. And I was looking at the sales process and they have all the stuff automated and online and they can work from anywhere. And that I had an aha moment. I was like, I've probably just been doing things. I mean, made a hell of a lot of money, but there's probably an easier way to do it. And I started diving into it. And that's really where I discovered the world of automation. So we started with sales processes. Then we help people automate their sales pipelines. And then they were like, okay, well, now we need leads. All right. So we're like, all right, well, let's work on the lead side of things. And we discovered LinkedIn. And that's been such an incredible journey of helping people get these super high value leads that actually buy. And then we went into a slightly newer realm, which is like the next step, which is what we're putting a lot of focus on right now, which is creating a signature offer. Because what we realized is we were really good at helping people get the leads, but then once they get to the leads, then they've got I'm going to use the technical term here, they've got a crappy offer that they put in front of them, right? And they don't convert them. So it's such an interesting dynamic. And, what we're really focusing on now is how to help people create a signature offer that increases their value, buys back more time and converts clients effortlessly.
That is so interesting. So you went from, the door-to-door salesman kind of thing, which is so interesting for me because so many people are afraid of that element, Matt. Like it's one of those things where more people would be like, you know what, I'd rather do anything but do that. And were you one of the people that were knocking on the doors or were you delegating this?
Yeah, no, both. I've done both. I started off my first ever job was, I always laugh, it's like this time in my life is the only time I've ever earned a salary, right? For the past 4 or 5 years, the only time I've ever earned a salary. Everything before then has been commission only, and even in the previous business, we used to, pay nice dividends, but I also used to sell and we also used to get overrides. That's how we incentivized each other to grow. And it's just a crazy, crazy thing. So, I mean, my first job was working as a waiter. And then from a waiter, I went straight into door-to-door sales. Started off in the UK, selling gas and electric, and then came back to South Africa and then started selling telephone systems, and then kind of like evolved, and then it went into owning my own business. And so I've done everything from knocking doors, where some days in the UK we'd knock like 300 doors in a day. Yep. I've been told to F off and had dogs let out on me and police called on me more times than I can imagine. So rejection's not really a thing for me, let's put it that way.
That is almost actually like having a superpower, because so many people are afraid of rejection. So many people are scared of failing. So what were some of the things that you started learning, like practical tools that you started to implement when you would get rejected, or when you would face those moments where failure was a real probability?
Failure is always a real probability. And if we look at courage, the word courage, right? So courage is not that you're not afraid to do stuff. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway, right? And I think a key thing here is I was able to put aside the emotional attachment and focus on the task ahead. And I was actually reading a book. I'm reading a fiction book at the moment. So for me, in the mornings, I read my business books and my inspirational stuff. And in the evenings, I want to switch off because I don't watch TV. So I like good spy thriller books, And so they were talking about this guy who's like a special forces dude. And he was saying exactly this. The reason why they are so successful at what they do is because they can put all the emotional stuff aside and only focus on the task at hand. And I actually read that last night and I was like, that's the biggest thing that I was able to do.
That is great. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and it's actually such a great philosophy, right? Like you spoke about putting the emotional part aside, but we are emotional beings, are we not, Matt?
We are, and you've got to listen to your gut as well. But there are times where you need to switch that off, right? Because it'll get in your way. And we've made decisions before where we didn't have the money, and we've committed to things like, when I say we've had like $3,000 in our account and we committed to something for $25,000, we're like, I don't know how the hell we're going to do that, but we're in and we've committed, and somehow we're going to make it work. And we put the emotional stuff aside because either you can let that cripple you, right, or you can let it drive you. And for us, it's like, cool, let's put the emotional stuff aside and let's go for it. And we went for it. Safe to say that, $25,000 investment turned into $172,000 for us. So it was a really, really worthwhile investment. But even in the door-to-door sales side of things, I mean, there was a time where I had my entire sales team got poached by another company. We were supposed to leave on the Sunday and 2 out of 10 people showed up. And when we were trying to phone them, they just didn't answer their phones. They weren't responding. And we're like, what's going on? And the same thing happened in our Cape Town branch. And so we could have been like, oh my God, our business is over. Or we got angry. And what I mean by getting angry was we pushed ourselves to the limit, and we took those 3 people, myself and the 2 other guys, and in Cape Town, my 2 business partners and the 2 people there. And we had the best month we've ever had with the least amount of people.
That is so amazing. Yeah.
And I think also it's, if I can add one more thing to that, it's good also to have systems and structures behind you so that when things do bomb out, and they always do, all right? So don't ever think it's just like an easy ride, smooth sailing. Things always bomb out in one way or another. It's good to have those systems and processes that you can fall back on, because, even for like hiring people, for training people, we had all of that stuff built in. So we already knew, we turned the process on. As soon as that happened, we told our team, right, get the recruitment process going. We came back, we had a whole bunch of interviews. 2 weeks later, we trained a team of another 8 people on each side, ready to rock and roll, took ourselves out of sales, carried on. So it's good to have that base as well, but focus on the task at hand. And that's where you can separate the emotion and get the stuff done.
Have you always been this way, Matt, or is this something you learned?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I really don't know. I think, I had a kind of different kind of childhood. I think everyone's got their stories, how they grew up, but that also made me who I am today. And I think it's also, guys definitely have that ability. It definitely happens for guys, like where they can compartmentalize stuff, you know.
So it's a gene. It's a gene. No.
I think guys just do that naturally. You know, more, I'd say more often than what women do. But yeah, it's just a thing. But I don't know if I've always been that way, but you definitely learn a hell of a lot of stuff along the way that you just implement. And it's also just being self-aware and realizing, well, what works, what doesn't work, and being in touch with yourself. Like, I listen to myself and I ask myself the questions: if things aren't going well, what's not working? You know, where's it not working? What do I need to work on? And then go and work on it. Like, take action and don't just sit in it.
Taking action.
It's okay to cry. Yeah, like I said to my wife, so she used to come to me with problems and stuff all the time. So I was like, okay, well, you got one of two options. Either you can cry about it or you can do something about it. And then she's like, well, first I'm going to cry about it and then I'm going to do something about it. I was like, okay, I can live with that.
A woman after my own heart.
I can't argue with that logic, man. We all need different stuff, you know, as long as you do something about it. Like, I don't care what you do before that.
Sometimes, but I think that the difference in processing, especially between women and men, is, you know, women sometimes just want to speak about something. They don't necessarily want to fix it, right? Like, so it's like, we'll come to like our partners or our male friends with like a situation we're dealing with, and we don't want your solution. We don't want you to fix it. We just want you to listen and be like, I'm so sorry you're going through that. And then we're like, thank you. Now I can go fix it.
Well, guys have to learn that, because for us, it's like, well, that's why you have girlfriends, isn't it? Like, I thought you wanted to solve this problem. And like, why are you coming to me otherwise? So that was something I had to learn as well. I had to level up my communication game. I had to learn how to communicate better and talk more about my feelings and talk more openly. And, you know, honestly, it's been the best lesson I've ever learned. My relationship with my business partner is stronger. We talk more openly and deeply with our clients. We've got better relationships with our clients, with our suppliers, with everyone. I've just been able to build better relationships. It's amazing what being open can do. And I don't necessarily think it's being vulnerable. I think it's just being open and honest and like really communicating how you feel.
So you spoke about, you know, getting to this point where you learned how to be a good communicator. What led you to that point?
My wife, without a doubt. I'll attribute 100% to her, because, you know, growing up, our family was not very communicative. So, and I think this is also one thing that made me strong when it came to the door-to-door sales, because the guys used to like scream and shout and go do this and everything. And when people do that to me, like, I don't react. I'm like, okay, you know, like, is that all you got? And so when she used to like fight with me and to try and get a reaction, she's like, won't you just react to something? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. You know, we've got to sort this out a different way. And so we started talking, and I realized I started learning what she needed. And I think it's just communicating with people in general, like actually understand, how do they communicate? How do they connect? How do they like to be connected with, you know, and talking to them on their level. And, you know, so you can get an understanding from their perspective and then talking about it differently. So, you know, when we got married, she said to me, I want to go and see a relationship coach. And I was like, but there's nothing wrong. Like, we're fine. We're great, actually. She said to me, and I'll never forget this. She was like, well, you know, you get a business coach when you want your business to be successful, don't you? I was like, ooh, okay, let's go. Like, I was like, perfect. Honestly, it was the best thing we've ever done. Best thing we've ever done. And that has helped me to communicate and build better relationships with everybody, including myself.
Jeez. I love that. What was one of the biggest takeaways you took from that, like learning how to become a better communicator?
Well, I think it was the communication between the two of us. And he kind of gave us a framework, and he said, you know, you guys are both individual people. And we've always kind of looked at it as coming together, is that, we're not coming into this partnership 50-50. And it's the same thing that I look at with my business partnership as well. We come in 100%, 100%. So together we make 200%, right? Because we all have off days. And when that off day happens, if one person is 50, one person is 50, then you guys are below 100. Whereas now if one person is 50, one person is 100, you still operating at 150%. So one of the biggest things is that the relationship is more important than individual parts. So that was the biggest takeaway. And it's the same thing in business as well with myself and my business partner. Like, our business relationship is more important than individual parts. The question we ask ourselves is this the best thing for the relationship? And that's how we determine our actions. And when your actions are speaking with that in mind, and you've built a big vision, a big goal, a big common goal that you've moving towards, then, together, it's beautiful.
That's amazing. And how much does ego, like, I don't want to say death of the ego or putting ego aside, but how much does that play into better communication? Because some people can't communicate because their ego usually leads before their thinking does.
I think it's just understanding different levels of consciousness, and ego is one level on the scale. And I think ego starts dissipating when you start understanding different levels of consciousness, and you really accept people, and when you start knowing and seeing what level of consciousness they're operating from, and just accepting, okay, cool, that's where you're at and that's where you're operating from. Like, I can help you move up if you want, or not if you don't want. That's also fine. But I think it comes from a place is that if you love yourself first and you're 100% within yourself, why do you need to have ego?
But loving ourselves.
You got to love everyone.
Yeah, but man, I don't think loving ourselves comes naturally. I don't think it does take a lot of work. Where did that work start with you?
A couple of years ago, I got really sick. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I went from 82 kilograms down to 59 kilograms in the space of 2 months. And I was literally like a stick figure. You could see the bones in my chest, and like, it was nuts. You see, I'm okay now. Like, I'm like healthy and strong and exercise all the time. I've never looked or felt better in my life. And so anything I read from Lisa Hayes, I think her name is.
Louise
Hayes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Louise Hayes, that anything to do, any stomach issues is holding on to trapped emotions. And so I had to do a lot of work around letting go, and forgiving everybody, forgiving myself for everything. And then, learning to love myself again. And it was very difficult looking in the mirror, seeing this like shell of what I look like. I mean, I didn't have a butt. I went from the back of my head down to my ankles, right? And just like, and, looking in the mirror and telling yourself you love you is difficult. So yeah, it takes hard work. It takes practice. It takes a lot of emotion, a lot of breaking down. But at the same time, you can't give from an empty cup. So you want to make sure that your cup is full and overflowing. If you can't love yourself wholly, you can't love anyone else. It'll always be looking for other things to fill your cup. It's a tough road, but it's worth it.
And are you still on the road?
I think you never stop. It just becomes easier to maintain. Yeah, you never stop. I mean, I just committed to a life of personal growth and development. I think Bruce Lee said, I'm not a master. I'm a student master. A master is someone that has learned and finished, whereas a student master is always learning and growing and becoming better and better.
I love that. Love that. And you mentioned that you don't watch television. So why is that?
I just waste time. I used to. Don't get me wrong. I love a good movie. I've seen tons of movies, and still now when the latest Marvel movie comes out, I nerd out over that. Like, I used to read comics when I was growing up. So I know all the stories of everyone and how they interlink, and like I know all of that stuff. If there's a good movie coming out, I'll go watch the movie. But I just find that reading is so much more fun. And I love my own imagination as well, and picturing what it looks like. And I don't know, I just get caught up in books, and I can just read and read and read and read. I mean, I think I've read 3 books this week. I know, I don't know what's been going on, but I just couldn't put them down. They're great books.
What are they?
So I found like these series books, which is, so I subscribe to Kindle Unlimited. It's like $10 a month, and you read like books for free. Well, for $10 a month, but as many as you want. And I found these like spy thriller series. So it's like a Netflix series, but you get to read a whole series of like 4 or 5 or 6 books. And like I find I just can't put them down because one book's just not enough.
That's amazing. I love that you are actually using that subscription to its maximum. Like I think most people are like reading a book a month, and you're like, no.
But they've also got some really, but they've also got some really good like business books on there as well. And you know, you can download a ton of really good business books for like $10 a month. It's unreal.
What are your top 3 like of all time business books that you've read?
Oh my gosh. I would say one is Influence by Robert Cialdini. That was a really good one. The Go-Giver was a really good one. The Go-Giver was by John David Mann and I can't remember the other guy's name. Yeah. But yeah, there's 2 guys that wrote that. And then the third one, I don't know. I'd have to give a think about that. I really enjoyed Start With Why. I don't know if I'd put that as one of the all-time favorites, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Delivering Happiness with Tony Hsieh. I don't know. I'd have to take a look at like the top 3 and come back to you on that one. There were a lot of really good ones that I enjoyed, but you know, it's like you read some of these books and a lot of them have got the same sort of topic, but then they contradict each other on how to get to that topic. And it just makes you realize, like, the more you read, I look for 1 or 2 things that I can implement. I don't want to implement everything in a whole book. I look for 1 or 2 things that's going to align with what we do, that's going to get us closer to our goal, that I know my team can implement without me, that doesn't require all of me and my thinking and my thought process to get us to the next level. So whenever I read these things, I want to look for those 1 or 2 key points of leverage that aligns with what we do, that's really going to drive us forward.
That's a great strategy for reading. What
I would say, sorry, I did think of the third book. Yes. It's called Extreme Ownership. That it was written by 2 Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and I can't remember the other dude's name. We actually give that to our clients when they join with us as a gift. Next level. There's even another one, Atomic Habits by James Clear. How to build habits and habit stacking, next level. But that Extreme Ownership is a game changer.
I need to make sure I get my hands on that copy. I think it's
worth it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to read it. No, I'm actually going to get my $10. I'm going to get my $10 a month.
Hell yeah, do it. And I think the audio, I listened to the audio book of Extreme Ownership, and it's quite cool because they've got these like hard, raspy, you know, Navy SEAL voices, and then they put in like bombs, and yeah, I kind of nerd out a little bit on that stuff. But you know, if you like that, it's an experience, not just a book, you know.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'm going to get the audiobook. Is it on Audible?
Super cool. Yeah, on Audible.
Amazing. I'm going to do that. So what constitutes, so like when you are reading, because you are such an avid reader, what constitutes a good book?
I want to enjoy the story. For me, I want to learn stuff, but I want to enjoy the story. I want to read it and enjoy it. Like, because a lot of people write these books like they're textbooks. And I'm like, God, I don't want to read a textbook. I hated school. I hated studying. I don't want to study. I want to enjoy it. I want to learn some stuff along the way. Robin Sharma's stuff is really good as well. Like the 5 a.m. Club, I absolutely loved that book. I flew through it because he writes so well and he tells such great stories. But if people can integrate a story with the learnings, I'm all in. So I'm easy to please. Like, give me a good story, it's done.
Oh my God. And what's the story of your business? Does your business have a narrative, a story that you tell?
Yeah, depending on what story is necessary for the occasion. You kind of have different stories depending on your audience, depending on what path you're taking them on. Even how my story will change depending on what story we're telling. So I think the story, because all of us have got not just one story, but many stories in our lives, right? And you always want to make the story relevant to the people you're talking to and relevant to the topic that you're talking about. So some things where we talk about as an overarching story, and I tell the story about, how I got sick and how I healed myself and all the rest, that's relevant in some areas. It's not relevant in others. So I would say your business story, there's lots. I think I've shared quite a lot of that today. And actual fact, I'll share one more piece with you, is that, how I met my business partner is that, I started off as Infusionsoft certified partner, so helping people automate their pipelines. Him and I met, he was working for another company, helping them implement it. And I was running these meetups, and we met at this meetup, and he was doing a lot of the technical stuff. I was doing a lot of the sales stuff. We got talking, we started sending some work to each other. And then when I got sick and I landed up in hospital a couple of times, he came to visit me and he was like, dude, why don't I just take over all the clients? You just get some rest and relax and everything as well. And I was like, wow, I didn't ask for that, but he just came and did it. And then I said, well, look, there's something here. Why don't we actually look at doing this properly and growing it? So he left his super high paying job. He was making a lot of money to come and start something for a quarter of what he was earning, literally just covering his bases. And we've managed to build in dollar terms a 7-figure coaching business, which is pretty exciting.
That is incredible. Like, do you believe in the law of attraction? Do you believe in manifestation? Do you believe in any of that? Absolutely.
Yes. In fact, I've got to be careful about what I manifest. I need to be very specific about it. My wife's like that as well. Between the two of us, we have to be very careful about what we put out into the universe, because it comes. And sometimes it comes in unexpected ways as well. So how she explained it to me as well is it's like, the reason most people don't manifest stuff and they don't attract stuff is because they go out. It's like going to McDonald's and saying, I don't want a Big Mac. I don't want a milkshake. I don't want chips. They're like, okay, like what must I give you then? You're here, so obviously you want something. How about I just go into the back that, no, I don't want that either. Okay, but you didn't specify exactly what you do want. So if you talk to most people in life, they can tell you what they don't want. They can tell you exactly what they don't want, but they're not very clear on what they do want. And what you don't want is it's good to know that, but it's the starting point and it's the building blocks to actually putting together what you do want. Be specific.
That is powerful. And so for people who would, sit back and say, the past 2 years, we know what it's been, but it has been some of the most challenging. And, Matthew, I did not attract this. I did not even think about this. My business fell apart. My partner left me. Like, my whole life went up in smoke. And I could have never ordered this at McDonald's, even if I tried. What do you say to people?
I mean, I can give you the nice answer. I can tell you what I would say. What do you want?
No, I mean, give it. Our audience likes honesty and upfrontness, so give it to us straight, Matt.
Look, for me, life is about choices, right? Everything in life is about choices, and sometimes you can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose what you do about it. right? Like I didn't choose to get Crohn's, but you know what I did choose? I chose to not wallow in sorrow. I chose to not wallow in pity. I chose to not join all those groups where everyone was feeling sorry for themselves. I chose to get off medication. I chose to not see doctors anymore. I chose the hard route of working on myself and exercising again when I couldn't even pick up a 2-kilogram weight. Now I'm doing like 100 pull-ups in a session. You know, I chose the hard path, right? But I chose to do something about it. And too often people sit there and these things happen and they're like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. But then they choose to not do anything about it. And that pisses me off. They also choose to not take accountability and actually accept responsibility for it. And that's what that extreme ownership is about taking ownership. I was going to drop something in there, which I've been told not to do on podcasts. So I do swear from time to time. So I've been told not to do that. So I'm going to not do that. But people don't take ownership. And it pisses me off because they blame everybody else for things that are going on around them, where at the end of the day, the only person you can ever blame, if you are a business owner, if your business is not working, if your staff is not doing what you need them to do, if it's not growing, if things are going wrong, there is only one person to blame, and that's you. So the moment you start taking some damn ownership and start realizing that you are the problem, you need to work on yourself or get out of the way of your team, right? Or change what you're doing and make some hard decisions, right? If your business is failing because the market is failing, choose something else, switch. Make the hard decisions and take action. People get too stuck on fear. And it annoys me when people tell me, oh yeah, but this and that happened and this happened. I'm like, I know, I was sick for 3 years. I couldn't do anything. I almost died. They wanted to take my intestines out. I know, I get it. But here I am, 7-figure business, live a great lifestyle. I've got an incredible wife. I've never been happier. I've never been healthier. I've never been stronger. I'm 34 years old. I've got a 6-pack. I've never looked this good in my life. Make the hard choice. And it was tough getting here. It wasn't easy. You know, we fought the ups and downs. There were months where we had crappy income, months where I couldn't pay myself. You know, there were times whereby we lost people, where we had to dive back in and work 12, 18-hour days. There were times where we lost a lot of money, times where we ran webinars and we had 0 sales, times when we felt like losers and failures, and like all of that happens. It's part of the journey. Like when you got a bigger goal, a bigger vision, it's like, make the choice to do whatever it takes to get there. You know, if your business failed, take some ownership. It was you, right? If your sales sucked, if your business went down, take some damn ownership. It was you. There's no one else. And, you know, that's something I learned. And crazy story. When I got better from Crohn's, I was on my path to healing, is my mom then got diagnosed with cancer. And I think it was all the stress of me being sick. She literally woke up one day and she couldn't walk. And they found a 5-centimeter tumor on her spine. And we took her to the hospital and she had to go through radiation and all the rest. And she took a photo one day of her sitting in the hospital bed and, you know, told a bit of the story. And she had like over 400 comments, something crazy. And I said to her, I was like, you know, Mom, all this attention and, you know, people coming in and visiting her, people like flying out from all over the world, like she's super, super loved. Even though she didn't believe that she was, which was really interesting. And I said to her one day, and you know, I could only share this with her from my personal experience, is that you're going through some tough times right now, and you're going to go through radiation, and you're going to go through chemotherapy. You're going to lose all your hair. You're probably going to get sick. Sometimes you're not going to make it to the toilet. You're getting all this love and attention from everybody, and it's nice. But I want to tell you something, is that when you are losing your hair, when you are feeling emotionally broken down, when you are vomiting in the toilet or sometimes not even making it there, nobody else can go through that like you. So you've got one of two options. You can hope that everybody else is going to make you feel better, or you can take some responsibility and start working on yourself and start fixing it. It's up to you. Now she is 100% cancer-free. She's got all her hair back. She looks younger than probably before everything happened. It's that powerful. It's that powerful. I beat Crohn's, my mom beat cancer, take some responsibility. We've built a beautiful business, take some responsibility and take some action. That's what I would say.
Oof, that was powerful. I mean, I
don't know where all this stuff has come from today. So this is, I'm going to want the recording of this, please.
That is brilliant. I'm loving this because I think radical responsibility is such a powerful tool. It's so incredible when people do take accountability, because I think life, we're not taught that when we take responsibility, Matt, that, our lives are in our hands, right? We're taught that if someone is always to blame, like your mom is to blame for why you're turning out, your dad's to blame for why you can't stay in a relationship, your boss is to blame for the income you get, your wife is to blame for whatever.
Government's to blame.
The government, like we live in a society whereby if you put it on Facebook, trust me, you will have an army of people that support your claim to blaming anyone but
Absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely.
Like, never blame yourself.
And that's the thing, and that's why I was saying, like, for me, life is about choices. And, you can't choose the family that you're born into, or the parents that you're born into, or the family that you grow up with. But what you can choose is you can choose to learn some lessons from it. You can choose to, and, this is something my dad said to me, that kind of always stuck with me, was that, he's like, he never had a father growing up. He's like, I don't know how to do this dad thing, and I've probably done a horrible, shitty job of it. But he's like, I hope that you can just take the good from what I do and forget the rest. And I've kind of used that throughout my entire life. And, that's where the compartmentalization comes in. I'm always looking for the one or two good things that can come out of it, the one or two lessons that can come out of it. All the other stuff's like irrelevant, it's just noise, and it makes it a lot easier to stay focused and to drive towards your goals. So like every crisis is an opportunity. Every shitty experience is a lesson. You're either learning or you're either winning or you're learning. It's that simple, eh?
Oh, that is the mentality to have. And I think with the crappy moments in our lives, I always think of it as like, how flowers need manure to grow.
Exactly.
Like without the difficult moments, we would just never grow. We would stay stagnant, we'd stay stuck, and we'd never have to challenge ourselves to move past a certain point, because every level requires a different version of you. And so, Matt, one thing that I love asking this question of people who have now reached the other end, like they're starting to achieve really big goals, they're continuing to grow, they're continuing to expand. People face a lot of pushback against themselves, I guess, when they start experiencing a certain level of success. And then you start seeing certain patterns of self-sabotage, or, trying to be, like you just look at someone and you're like, why are you trying to destroy everything you've just built? Like, this makes no sense. Have you ever experienced anything like it, whether it's imposter syndrome or fear of success?
I think there's always times in life where you think like, do people actually want what I've got? Like, is this even relevant? I think you always get that. But then at the same time, so what I like to do is I like to go back and not compare myself against anyone else. I like to see what other people are doing. It's very difficult to not compare yourself against other people out there, because you're like, I should be doing this, and like, I can be doing this, whatever. But, the world doesn't give you things on a silver platter. You've got to work for it. Right? There are some people who do get things on a silver platter. That's okay. 1%, 0.5%, whatever it is. I'm not one of them. I need to work. Okay. And I've just accepted that that's a reality. I've got to work to get it. Simple, done. Don't care. It's just the reality of what it is. I might wish for something different, but I'm not going to get it. So I think for me, it's just, staying tied to the task at hand, and realizing that some things just take time, right? Sometimes the time can be accelerated. Sometimes it can't in certain things. Someone said to me the one day, it's a bit crude, but I'm going to say it, it's quite fun. It's like, some things just take time. You can't get 9 women pregnant and expect a baby in 1 month. It's just not going to happen. As much as what you wish it would, it's just not going to happen. So, some things just take time. And that's why, always commit to personal growth and development and learning, because the one investment that keeps giving is the investment in myself. And it's the same thing for like my marriage with my wife, is that I'm never going to stop learning. I'm never going to stop growing. And that's because I always want to be a better version, right? And there's just certain tweaks along the way that you got to make to do that. And, really asking myself the question, okay, cool, where am I stuck? What's not working quite well? Okay, let me go work on that a little bit. And sometimes you don't know what that is, but, other people, you'll see things are not working. And then you can actually ask, what is it? What's going on? What's not working? Like, don't be afraid to have, I call them courageous conversations, right? Have the courageous conversations. It's those conversations where I defined courage earlier. It's those conversations that you're afraid to have because they're scary, bloody conversations. Have them. Have them with your wife, have them with your husband, have them with your business partner, have them with your suppliers, with your customers, with your children. Have them, your family. I've had courageous conversations with my dad. I mean, we always had, I've had courageous conversations with my mom, and honestly, it's the best thing that's ever happened. It's tough and it sucks, but, you're really able to be open. And when you're actually able to it's that trapped feeling thing that I told you about, right? When you can actually talk about it, like all the stuff just comes out. You're like, oh my God, it was really scary, but it was amazing. And then your relationship actually becomes better.
Wow. I love that. I love the concept of courageous conversations. I think so many of us are afraid because we're scared of rejection, right? I think it goes back to our primal instinct again of like, oh my goodness, I don't want to get voted off the tribe because I'm going to die and no one's going to accept me. And I think we're so afraid of telling people our genuine truth because we're afraid of how it will impact them. So when you were having these courageous conversations, I'm sure people are listening to you and they're like, I mean, it's easy for Matt, but I could never do that. How did it feel? How did it feel when you first had that courageous conversation with your dad or your mom?
It's always scary, and it took some time to build it up. It's not like you just say, hey, let's have a call. It's like, no. We had to have a fight and didn't talk for a couple of weeks for it to actually happen. And I was like, you know what, enough is enough. I'm done with this. But, it comes back to that thing of you can't give from an empty cup. And the reason people are worried about what other people think is because their cups aren't full. And you're looking for validation for other people to fill your cup, right? When you work on yourself and you love yourself and you're constantly building yourself up and you're happy and you're fulfilled, it makes it easy to have those conversations because you're not doing it out of a place of needing validation. You're doing it out of a place of giving and wanting to make things better. And that changes everything completely.
Wow. I second that 100%. And so what's your relationships with boundaries? How do you relate to boundaries?
What do you mean?
So setting boundaries. So for example, setting boundaries with family, with work colleagues, because I know that in the time we're living in, right, a lot of people are complaining about burnout because they're struggling to set boundaries either with their business partners or with their colleagues or in their relationships. Now everyone's working in the same space, and now they're like, how do I tell my partner that I don't actually want to see your face 24/7 without, but being able to do it in a way that, the other person feels loved and respected, and you also feel heard and seen.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and this is, my wife and I did this when we started, before we got married actually, is we designed a business plan for our life. And we set a 3-year goal. Now I see that it needs to be a 10-year goal as the first point, and then work our way backwards. We kind of said, where do we want to be? Where do we want this life to take us? What do we need to do to get there? And sometimes you don't know what you need to do to get there, but you know that you want to get there. And we set what we want to have in terms of revenue, in terms of profits, how we want our life to look. We want to have, people managing the house side of things, so we don't have to worry about that. We want to run our relationship like we want to run a business, so that we can truly be partners, instead of, being married to some person because that's who we got married to. And it's the same thing in a business where you've got a big vision, you've got a big goal, but you also got to realize that you're different people that need different things. So for me, I say to my wife, I'm like, please go have friends, go on girls' weekends, go have a job. Like, I want you to have friends. Like, I am not your be all and end all. I am one person in your life, a pretty important person, but I'm one person in your life, and I don't want you to change. And honestly, like, we are best friends. And I wrote down a list of what I wanted out of a partner, in terms of a wife specifically. And she ticked every one of those boxes. And I was very, very specific. Like, she needed to run her own business, be in control of her own time, because there's things that I like to do. I like to travel. I want to go on a whim and be like, let's go to the US next week. Okay. Or maybe that's a bad example because she would need a visa. I mean, I can go, I've got a 10-year visa already, but let's go to Bali on Monday, book tickets, off we go. And we've been able to do that. I mean, this year we've been to Zanzibar. I just came back from a trip to Zambia as well. She's been on a bunch of girls' weekends, and we can go in the middle of the damn week if we want. So there were things that were important. And, it's not about, I don't think it's setting boundaries. I think it's more about knowing what you want, first of all, and what your priorities are. Sharing your goals with your partner, business partner or life partner, and showing them the plan of how you're going to get there and what needs to be done to get there. So there are times where, we set some time, and once again, the relationship is more important than the parts. Okay. So for us, Thursdays is date night every Thursday. That doesn't get changed. That doesn't get interfered with. And if it does, I've got to let her know in advance, this is what's happening and this is why it's happening. Right. And it's the same thing with business. So between my business partner and I mean, he's got 3 young kids. I knew his one kid just as he was born even. And it's the same thing. Like, both of us, family time is important. We want to switch off. We want to stop working at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever it is, but we still talk a lot, So it's not about, I don't think it's setting boundaries. I think you set boundaries in, like, if you're a husband and wife and, dudes come and talk to your wife and she's like, no, I'm married. There's a boundary. Like, we can talk, but like, that's a boundary. Like, no. I think when you are closer with a partner or a business partner or life partner, it's about sharing the vision, sharing the goals, and building a plan together. And in that plan, you build out your time that you spend together with no interruptions. And make it meaningful, and don't sit at home and watch TV on the couch together. Actually get out and do something fun, whatever that is, right? Always get out the house. But like, for us, every night we sit and we cook together, we drink a bit of wine, listen to music. And that's like our fun, relaxing thing. We cook, we make nice food, we get inventive in the kitchen. But it's building in that time. And it's even with family as well, because family can be demanding too. And now you've got 2 families that you got to appease. And like, both our parents are divorced. So now there's like 4 families. Right? So what we do is every 6 weeks, we get everyone together, and they know they've got their time with us as well. They don't bother us in between. They talk and phone us, whatever, but everyone's got their time. And if you can just show everyone that you do care, you do want to be with them, you have got other stuff going on, but here's the time that we've got together, and I can't wait to see you. And just quality.
Quality. I think that is the important part. Not doing it because you have to, but really investing yourself when you are present, I think is so powerful.
Well, it was an interesting thing. I was listening to Jim Rohn. I love his stuff, right? And he was saying to me, well, that sounded like he was talking to me anyways.
He was saying to you, Matt, let's go.
He was saying it to me, definitely one-on-one, right? He phoned me up. Even after he died, he phoned me up. He was like, Matt, I need to tell you something. So he said, he's like, people always ask me, how do I get work-life balance, right? And what he said was there's no such thing as work-life balance, right? Because what happens is that when you are at work, you're sitting dreaming about being on the beach or on holiday with your friends or family or whatever. And when you're on the beach on holiday, you're thinking about all the things that are going on at work. That's not balance. But what there is being present. So when you're at the beach with your family, your friends, or whatever it is, you are 100% there. And when you're at work, you're 100% there. And it's the same thing about date night, as an example. Work doesn't get done. Work is already done. There's a cutoff. It's finished. Don't phone me, don't talk to me, don't message me, don't nothing. It's date night, right? And like really learn about your partner. I mean, like the 5 love languages is a thing. It's real. It's really real. If you can communicate with them on the way that they want to be communicated with, oh my God, you'll just get so much more out of them, so much more love, so much more connection. They'll give you what you want without even blinking and loving doing it. It's like, it's pretty special.
I love that. I love that because people do want to give us what we want. It's just that we need to tell them what we want in order for them to give it to us, right? And if we don't know like what our love language is, and we're like, no, I don't know, I just need you to love me. And your love language is giving gifts, and then your partner's love language is words of affirmation, and you're not affirming, but you're giving gifts. They're like, what are you doing? It's like, you don't see me.
That's the mistake most people make, is that they give their partner their love language. And, it's such an easy thing to do. Just be perceptive, listen to them, actually like notice what goes on and pay attention. It is the simplest thing to have a happy marriage and to have a happy life and to have a happy partner. It's really not difficult. It takes work, but it's not difficult.
I love that, Matt. As we come to the end, I've got 2 final questions for you. The first one is, what is real success to you?
The organization or the word?
Just real success. Like when I say, Matt, when I say you've achieved real success, what would that mean to you?
Real success for me is, I kind of feel like I've got it. It's a place of being truly happy, where I can do what I want, when I want, how I want. But I've got the people in my life that matter, but I am truly happy regardless of who's there or whatever it is. And, we all go through ups and downs and frustrations and angers and sometimes feeling crappy, but underneath it all, like, you're truly happy, and same thing with like the money side of things. It goes up and down, but for me, it's that, and having an amazing wealth portfolio where I don't actually have to work and I work because I want to. That in. Money is very important to me as well. I'm not being all woo-woo here. I like money. I like selling. I like making lots of money. I love investing money. I love my money making money. I tell you, man, like, you can be happy without money, 1,000,000%. But I'd rather be happy with a lot of money.
I love the honesty, and I second you on that.
I like the nice things in life, okay? I love to travel. I love like buying cool stuff.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's been my motto, I think, since I was like this big, where I was like, I work hard simply because I like nice things, and I don't expect it from others. I expect it from myself. So to make myself happy, I like money. Right? Just to make yourself happy. Like, I'm like, yes, for you, you may not need the stuff that I like to make me happy. I like traveling. I like living in nice places. I like beautiful things. I'm like, so I need money for that. Like, I'm not saying I'm not a fulfilled, happy, authentic human being without it. but I'm much happier, fulfilled, and authentic with it.
I'd rather rock up to my problems in a Ferrari than, on a bicycle.
I am with you, and so is Marilyn Monroe.
You are welcome.
Matt, our final question is, what is one thing about Matt Clark that we will not find on Google?
I've probably told you quite a lot already. Maybe, so one thing I like to do every month is I like to draw some cash out, like, $2,000 or whatever it is. And I like to just randomly give it away to people. So I don't believe in giving it to car guards and sometimes car guards. I don't like giving to people on the side of the road begging, because they're professional beggars. That is their job. If you offered them a job, they'd be like, nah, I'd stay begging because that's where I make my money. I don't want to give money to beggars. But people that kind of like touch my heart a little bit, sometimes I could give the whole lot of money to one person if like I feel like that's what they need. But I just like randomly giving people money. And
yeah. I love that. I'm like your own Oprah moment. It's like, yeah, because giving is like my love language. So that to me, I was just like,
That's nice. Yeah. And just also not expecting anything in return. Like I don't expect anything from it. I'm just like, there you go. Have a lucky day. You never know who's going to need it or what's going to happen. But it's quite nice.
Oh, I love that, Matt. Matt, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I've loved every single part of it, all our detours. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I thought it was going to be, honestly, I thought it was going to be more of like a business side of things, but it was quite interesting the way that it went.
That was an incredible conversation. And if you love this conversation, be sure that you are checking out our playlist and that you have not missed out on any of our phenomenal guests. Until next week, I look forward to serving you again.